what were the cultural shocks, say, you faced going into Japan? Like, what actually stood out to you?
One major thing, how much people respect the rules of the country. Oh,
You can't relate, right?
yes,
No wonder
I
that stood out.
cannot relate, bro. It's like, it's crazy because um, I don't even know where to start with. Even if it's not written anywhere or not said,
Mhm.
they would just like ethically they would follow it.
Hey, folks, or should I say, konnichiwa? Actually, it's konbanwa because it's night here and over there. But yeah, welcome back to Tico Talks. This is season 2, the story series, where we interview guests from around the globe to share with us their experiences, their stories from the countries that they are in. And after an extended period to the west of Sri Lanka, today we head east all the way to the land of the rising sun, Japan. I'm your host Lukman Rauf, and joining us all the way from Beppu in Japan is Ranul Kotuwegoda. Welcome to the show, bro.
Hey, it's nice to be on the show.
Thank you, man. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. And before we get started, folks, this is your friendly reminder. If you're listening to this podcast on a platform such as Apple Podcasts, make sure to rate the show. And if you feel like it, maybe drop a review as well. It would do. It would mean so much, and it would help so much to get us featured and help more people discover the show. However, if you're watching us on YouTube, you know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, and all that, and drop your thoughts in the comments down below. Again, one more thing before we get started. Today we're going to talk about Japan, and this question goes out to you as well, Ranul. Um, Before you went to Japan, that is, what was the first thing that comes to your mind when I say Japan? For me, of course, when somebody says Japan, the first thing that comes to my mind is anime. What about you? What was it for you?
Honestly, it was that they had like, so many alphabets and like such a complex system of, writing,
The
and that
language.
was the only thing in my head. Yeah.
Right, right. So, folks, you can drop it down in the comments below. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when I say Japan? And let's get started. Ranul, give us a small introduction about yourself.
Yes. So my name is Ranul Kotuwegoda. I graduated from St. Thomas's uh, College, Mount Lavinia. That was my high school.
Boltomians.
Yeah. And I am a third year student at the Asia Pacific University, and I'm majoring in strategic management. 22 years old, and it's been around 2 years since I've been in Japan. Yes.
That's great, bro. That's amazing. Yeah. So, again, one more question for you, like a small intro about the country, about Japan.
Oh, small intro. Okay. Japan is a country where a lot of people are conservative, I would say, in their own sort of way. They have their own way, and honestly, when I came, it was a whole new world for me. Um, I would say people follow rules like very seriously, and their culture is totally different to I think any country in the world. A lot of people say China and Japan and Hong Kong. I don't know, those countries are like similar, but Japan is unique. They have their own way of thinking, and I would say it's a difficult country to get used to.
I know, like the thing is, the culture in Japan is like, even though we are in Asia, like when you say Sri Lanka and Japan's in Asia, it's such a contrasting culture, right? Like it's not the same as moving to the UK or something like that, because then you're used to the Western things, right? But here it's like Oriental culture, I guess. So that's where we come in. Like 2 years ago, when you flew to Japan, what was your experience like? The experience of moving in, and the emotional journey, the physical journey, the
Yeah. So I was supposed to come to Japan initially with my best friend who was, since he was my friend since I was in grade one. So I was not worried, but suddenly there was this flight change that I had to make, and I got to know 3 days before that I was going to go alone. And that was terrifying because I had started Japanese classes
Mhm.
before I was going, and I realized that they did not speak a word of English, and there are no proper signs in English, or people like aren't gonna speak to you like if you suddenly need help or something. So I
Right.
was dead scared, but I just winged it. I came to Japan, and there was this person holding a board in my uni. I
Mhm.
just contacted him, and they spoke to us in like symbols, and they're using their fingers and pointing at places. But it was very interesting initially. Yeah,
So did you have like a background in Japanese, like a basic understanding of the language before you flew in?
I went for classes for like uh maybe a month, but that got me nowhere. That just got me even more stressed out. Yeah. So let me tell you something interesting to
Mhm.
start with. Japan has three forms of writing letters. So initially, you have hiragana,
Mhm.
um, and then you have katakana, and then you have
Mhm.
kanji. Kanji is what is derived from the Chinese characteristics. So it's mostly the same as the Chinese letters.
Mhm.
And hiragana is how you express the meaning of the kanjis. And katakana is used for words that are written in English. Like, for example, if I say ice cream, um, in Japanese it would be aisukrimu. So
Right.
anything that comes from a foreign country is written in this alphabet. So
Right.
it's kind of would be like too bad. It's very complex. Uh, yeah,
The fact that there are three different alphabets, that's kind of scary in itself.
yeah,
Yeah, but starting off, I remember you telling me, right, that there are three different types of people that go to Japan. And
yes. In my perspective, so
yeah.
see, I'm gonna be talking about everything from my perspective.
Mhm.
There are three. I think I've seen three main types of people who come to Japan. First would be those that come for language schools because they're interested in learning the language, or I mean, that's another way to get the visa.
Mm.
So once you get visa here, you can start working part time, and the pay is really, really great. For me, coming from a South Asian country, the pay is really great for me. So the first kind of people would work hard, and they would send back money to their families, or they would collect money for their future, and they would just grow. And there's actually, I think, the highest population of Sri Lankans or foreigners coming to Japan for labor or other purposes. Yeah, for working basically.
So they come for
And then
work in
there's
the form of studying for a language.
yes, so they apply saying, okay, I want to study the language, I'm interested,
Mhm.
and then they'll start a Japanese. They'll start going to. It's called Nihongakko. They'll start
Mhm.
going to Nihongo Gakko, and then probably if you graduate that, then you can apply for another university. So they'd keep renewing their visa, and they'll be working part-time, or how Japan is famous for vehicles, so they try and do a business with Sri Lanka, anything that triggers growth. So that's the first kind of people.
Nice.
Yes, so second would say I think people like me, which is a very it's a minority for sure. People who come here for university, like who want to do their bachelor's or master's. And it's actually interesting that Japan has so many scholarships because uh, their culture is based on this underlying assumption that they need to learn English, and they need to sort of interact with foreigners. Like every like the, it, that there's this thing in my uni where people, Japanese students, are so hyped up about, going abroad, meeting foreigners. It's like a thing that if you don't do, you're sort of looked down upon. I don't know, that's what I have experienced. So they offer scholarships, and students would come. Uh, and it also helps the economy because they're spending, the students are spending here,
Mhm.
and they're helping out with part-time jobs, whatever. So that's the second type. I'll speak about these scholarships and all that later, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I think that's an interesting point. So the third type is people who come for like professional work. Mostly, I would say IT based because Japan has a lower number of IT professionals.
Mhm.
And yeah, so they would come. And honestly, I haven't really experienced, like, I haven't met a lot of them, but I'm sure there are a lot of people like that because I see these posts about people who are really successful in Japan
Right.
and who are foreigners. So yeah, that's the three types of people.
That's cool, man. And what's great about this is these the three types basically. You guys are going to be looking at Japan from totally different viewpoints, right? What
Yeah,
they see is not what you see, and it's going to be I don't know. And also, you're living in Beppu, right? So that like what do you say? That's like a countryside or like
yeah.
town or
So okay, everyone asks me this question, even back in Lanka. So my explanation to them is that it's the Anuradhapura of Japan.
right?
Yeah.
that,
So
yeah, yeah. That's very
yeah,
self-explanatory. Yeah.
yeah, it's a small town. Lots of old people, actually,
Mhm.
like seriously, lots of old people. Uh, and I think the reason why they built this university, like I don't know, I'm assuming, but still,
Mhm.
it makes sense, is because there was no young people in this city to keep it going, to do the
Work.
labor work. Yes, so they needed to keep this city going, and they made a big university there, and opened it out to the world. So then
Smart.
young people started coming. I think that's why they made it, for sure. But the city has all the facilities, I think, close to Colombo. I would say close to Colombo, except for the nightlife. Um, yeah. So
So the experience of somebody living in the suburbs or closer to Tokyo and somebody living in a city like Anuradhapura of Japan or Kandy of Japan, like the other cities, I think there's Nagasaki and a few other cities,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
how different is it? Like, would you say it's like a totally different experience, or is it like more or less the same?
Okay. So Japan, in the cities, you could see you could see the rush. You could literally see the rush, the amount of vehicles, people walking very, very fast, like seriously fast.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of I would say fashion, like people dressed in like different clothes and stuff in the cities, and so many malls, shops. I don't know, it's just like very happening all the time.
Mhm.
But in this city, it's not it's not that fast. It's not a fast city. It's pretty chilled out. um I'm saying chilled out, but I don't mean it has less facilities. There
I
are
get it.
buses, trains, everything on time, shops, whatever you need is there. It's just people are not as much in a hurry for
Mhm.
everything. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So let's get back to I just sidetracked a lot over there because, man, I'll be honest with you, man. When I started off this podcasting thing, right? So I started off with Singapore. One a country that I really, really, really wanted to do was Japan, South Korea, because that was around the time I started watching anime as well. So that really got me to like, I really want to learn more about this country from somebody in the country, right? So I went on Reddit forums, right? I went on Twitter. I couldn't find a person, and thank God, shout out to Hemaka for getting me in touch with you. And we are doing this right now. I swear to God, man, I'm so excited about this. So bear with me
Yeah.
if I get sidetracked, right? So let's get to the question. Coming from Sri Lanka, let's say it's a South Asian country, I would say similar to India to most aspects, right? So Sri Lankan Indian. What were the cultural shocks say you faced going into Japan? Like what actually stood out to you? I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of things stood out to you, but like what was the, like, if you could say like one major thing that stood out to you, what would that be?
One major thing. Uh, how much people respect the rules of the country. Or
You can't relate, right?
yes,
No wonder
I
that stood out.
cannot relate, bro. It's like it's crazy because um, I don't know. I don't even know where to start with. Even if it's not written anywhere or not said,
Mhm.
they would just like ethically they would follow it. I have no clue how they do it. Yeah, it's just I think it's programmed in them. That just like that DNA comes with rule following.
Like
Yeah,
no wonder that stood out to you, you know.
yeah.
Right, right. Right. So as anybody moving into a country, you had some expectations, right, moving in. Like especially after you went to that class about Japanese and things like that, you had certain expectations, right? Okay, this is what I'm going to face. Did it live up? Like, did it meet your expectations? Did it exceed your expectations, or was it totally different from your expectations once you landed out there? How was it?
Initially, I thought it was going to be really, life was going to be very difficult because of the language
Hmm.
and because I don't know their culture and I might mess up. So I had this feeling that I would have to like watch and like learn and sort of make so many mistakes. But no, I came into an environment where it's so international, people friendly, like because my entire city is is based on this university. Like that's the main thing in the city, and there are so many foreigners. So, and I went into the university dorms at first. So there were so many international like people, and of course, still we had to all accustom to the Japanese ways and follow the rules. Just do all of that. But it was the process was very slow. It just didn't hit me in the face.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's great. I mean, it's good that you could take it gradually instead of being dropped in the middle of the ocean or something like that.
Yeah.
So, however, wherever we go, we're going to come back to the same topic, that is Japanese, the language, right? So, educate us. Take your
Okay.
time and
For me, for us,
wait
like my university, yeah.
before you start off. Nande.
Why I chose Japanese or Japan?
Wait, Nande means why? I thought it means maybe.
Maybe does not mean as far as I know, maybe is not Nande, and I'm taking pre-advanced Japanese, so I'm pretty sure Nande doesn't mean
How do you say maybe in Japanese?
maybe. There's so many ways. Tabung kamoshiranai. Like at the end of a sentence, you can say kamoshiranai. Or mm, yeah, those are the two ways.
I probably need to rewatch my Attack on Titan.
あんたまともじゃないかもな
So I'll let you go on, bro. I just embarrassed myself, but yeah, you can go on.
um, it's I would start with saying that I learned Japanese like from 8:45 a.m. to 5:45 p.m. Every weekday except Wednesday, uh, and had a shit ton of homework and lived a very circular lifestyle for 6 straight months, uh, and it was very exhausting.
Only
It
Japanese.
really, yes, only Japanese for 6 straight months when I came to Japan, and we had 3 classes per day, different homework from all those classes. So by the time we go home, we would just eat and sit down again to study for the next class, or there would be a quiz, and that would affect our GPA. So we are scholarship students, and sometimes if we keep failing, that they might revoke our scholarship. So I was shit scared of that, and we were like really doing our best. Yeah. Um, Features of the language, I would say it's a very like it's a super um, contextual language. You can say a word, but it could mean so many different things based on the context. So, uh, like I don't know. Okay, I'll simply take the word "otsukare."
Mhm.
Okay, "otsukare" means good job. Like yeah, like it means good job. It means like
Okay.
well done.
Okay.
Okay, but when you see a person walking on the road, you can say "otsukare." He's just walking on the road. It's like a way of saying hello.
Right.
Yes. So once you're done with class, you can say "otsukare." Once you're done with sport, you can say "otsukare." Once you meet someone, you can say "otsukare." And yeah, like it didn't make sense to me at first.
Hmm.
Why you saying well done, or you look like you did your best every time you see someone, like but it's just culture.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And "ohayo gozaimasu" means good morning. But at I would go to work at 10 p.m. and my
Hmm.
manager would say "ohayo gozaimasu." Yeah. So that's the way.